Good morning and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Here at Redeemer, I actively encourage people to read the hymns that we will use that day as they prepare for worship. You see, sometimes we get so caught up in trying to follow the melody that we forget to pay attention to what the hymn is saying or how it relates to the themes being talked about in worship that day. Sometimes the melody divides phrases so that again we lose the meaning. However, if you read it ahead of time, you can better grasp the meaning, and then during worship, you add in the music and the hymn can speak powerfully to us. By the way, I think reading hymns is a great way to have a time of devotions each day, and I encourage you to give that a try too. So, as we continue this week of looking at popular Christmas songs that you hear on the radio that have had deep and profound meaning to them, I want to suggest one that isn't in our hymnals, but maybe it should be. I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day was originally a poem written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who wrote it in 1863 or 1864 in the midst of the Civil War. In a bloody war of neighbor against neighbor, he wrote, "I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and mild and sweet their songs repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men." In the second stanza, he reflected on how Christmas was proclaimed every year. And then in the third stanza, he noted that the bloodshed, death, and hate that was going on in the world around him with the Civil War. "And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth," I said, "for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men." Later, in a letter to a friend, Longfellow commented on going to the train station to greet his son returning from the war, and seeing his friend and knowing that his friend's son had been killed and would not be returning home. The grief and despair his friend felt, and that he felt on behalf of his friend, was not only overwhelming, but also shared countless times across the country. It seemed a time for despair, a time to recognize how far from peace on earth we are. It seemed a time to acknowledge that hate was strong, and it makes a mockery of peace on earth and goodwill among us. We aren't in a war, but we might recognize those feelings today. Then Longfellow responds in one more stanza with a resounding affirmation. "Then rang the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men." For Longfellow, those Christmas bells he heard pealing reminded him that we are not left bereft. God is in control, and God sent Jesus to change the way the world is. And because of Jesus, in Jesus, we work for and we look for peace on earth and goodwill to all. Our despair and mourning has turned into joy and peace. That's what Christmas brings. And maybe that should be in our hymnal. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.